Fresh off a failed football career and carrying the weight of his legendary family tree, Roman Reigns arrived in WWE's developmental territory, Florida Championship Wrestling, in 2010 under the ring name Leakee. Leakee was your typical developmental talent, winning some matches, losing others, and learning the ropes in front of tiny crowds. His biggest moment came when he defeated two other rookies, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, to become the #1 contender for the FCW Heavyweight Championship, only to fail to capture the title. Nothing about this version of Reigns screamed future main eventer. He was just another big guy trying to figure out if he had what it took to make it in the WWE, but everything changed on November 18, 2012. Roman Reigns made his WWE main roster debut alongside Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins at Survivor Series 2012. Gone was the forgettable Leakee. This was a completely different beast. Dressed in tactical gear and emerging through the crowd like a SWAT team, the Shield introduced Reigns as their enforcer. What made Shield-era Reigns so special was his role as the strong, silent muscle of the group. While Ambrose cut unhinged promos and Rollins showcased his technical wizardry, Reigns said very little but spoke volumes with his actions. His job was simple: hit people really hard and look cool while doing so. His Superman punch and spear became instant hits with the fans. His eye-catching physique, his silent aura caught the attention of everyone from kids to ladies and even the male fanbase. The Shield's dominance was unlike anything WWE had seen in years. They weren't just winning matches, they were dismantling established stars like John Cena, Randy Orton, and The Undertaker, and making it look easy. Their match at TLC against Team Hell No and Ryback was pure destruction. Their feud against the Wyatt family was iconic. Their victory over Evolution was poetic. When the Shield's music hit, everyone knew someone was about to get wrecked. The chemistry between the three was undeniable. Reigns and Rollins held the tag team championships together, showing they could work as a unit beyond just the six-man matches. The way they moved as a coordinated unit, the way they protected each other, the way they made every appearance feel like an event, it was wrestling magic. Reigns played his part perfectly. He was the guy who would clean house when things got chaotic. But here's what's easy to forget about Shield Reigns. He was genuinely over with the crowd. Fans loved the Shield, and Reigns was a huge part of that. His record-breaking performance at the 2014 Royal Rumble had the Philadelphia crowd on their feet, not booing like they would a year later. Looking back, this version of Reigns was probably his most universally beloved. He wasn't being forced down anyone's throat. He was just a badass member of wrestling's hottest faction, doing what he did best, looking intimidating and hitting people hard. The crowd reactions were genuine, the character felt authentic, and most importantly, he wasn't trying to be something he wasn't. The end came on the Raw after Payback 2014, when Seth Rollins betrayed his brothers with a chair shot that still stings to watch. But for nearly 2 years, Shield Reigns was the gold standard for how to book a powerhouse character. He was protected, he was special, and he was genuinely cool. If only WWE had remembered what made this version work when they pushed him as a solo star. After the Shield's breakup, WWE had big plans for Roman Reigns. And when we say big, we mean catastrophically, historically, spectacularly big. They wanted him to be the next John Cena, the next face of the company, the next guy who could carry WWE into the future. But there was just one tiny problem. Absolutely nobody wanted that except Vince McMahon. The Big Dog era began with Reigns winning the 2015 Royal Rumble, and the Philadelphia crowd's reaction told you everything you needed to know. They booed this man out of the building like he'd personally insulted their mothers. Instead of buckling back, Vince and WWE decided to double down harder. They gave him the Superman booking, terrible scripted promos about suffering succotash, and pushed him straight into the WrestleMania main event against Brock Lesnar. What made this era so frustrating was that Reigns actually had the tools to succeed. His matches against the likes Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, Braun Strowman, and Seth Rollins were often amazing. The guy could work, but WWE's presentation made him impossible to root for. The booking was hilariously tone-deaf. Reigns would get booed out of every arena, then cut promos about how the WWE being his yard, like he hadn't just been rejected by 20,000 people. He'd overcome impossible odds week after week, making every other wrestler look weak by comparison. He single-handedly destroyed factions and defeated legends like he was playing a video game on easy mode. The lowest point might have been his 2017 WrestleMania match against The Undertaker, where the crowd spent the entire match chanting for beach balls instead of paying attention to what should have been a passing of the torch moment. But here's the thing that makes this era tragic. Reigns himself wasn't the problem. He was working his ass off, The guy was just doing his job while Vince and WWE's creative team seemed determined to make him the most hated man in wrestling. But when Reigns announced his leukemia battle in 2018, the entire wrestling world rallied behind him. In that moment, everyone realized the man behind the character deserved better than what WWE had put him through. After months away during the pandemic, Roman Reigns returned at SummerSlam 2020 and did something nobody saw coming. He turned heel for the first time in 6 years. But this wasn't just any heel turn. This was a complete character transformation that finally unlocked what Reigns was meant to be all along. The Tribal Chief wasn't your typical WWE bad guy. He didn't kick puppies or insult the crowd's hometown. Instead, he was a cold, calculating leader who believed he was exactly what WWE needed. And honestly, he was right. Aligned with Paul Heyman as his special counsel, Reigns carried himself like wrestling royalty. Every movement was deliberate, every word carried weight, and that slow, methodical speaking style made everything he said feel important. What made this version brilliant was how it built on Reigns' real-life Samoan heritage and family connections. The storyline with his cousin Jey Uso was pure gold. When Reigns brutally beat down Jey at Hell in a Cell 2020, forcing Jimmy Uso to throw in the towel, it wasn't just heel heat, it was Shakespearean drama. The Tribal Chief demanded acknowledgement, and for the first time in years, he actually deserved it. His feuds became must-see once again. His matches against the likes of Kevin Owens and Daniel Bryan were praised by fans as well as critics. His Universal Championship defenses felt like must-see events because this version of Reigns felt genuinely dangerous and unpredictable. Reigns' character work during this period was exceptional. He mastered the art of being intimidating without shouting. A simple head nod or that cold stare could convey more menace than a 20-minute promo. When he told the fans to acknowledge him, it wasn't a catchphrase. It was a demand from someone who had earned that respect through dominance. The formation of the bloodline with the Usos gave WWE one of their strongest factions in years. Reigns wasn't just a champion, he was the head of a wrestling dynasty that controlled SmackDown through fear and family loyalty. Most importantly, crowds were invested again. They weren't booing because they hated him. They were booing because he was an effective villain they wanted to see get his comeuppance. After years of rejection, Roman Reigns had finally found his character, and it was absolutely perfect. But just when you thought the Tribal Chief was dangerous, Reigns took it to the next level when he turned into the Thanos of the WWE. By 2022, Roman Reigns had evolved from the Tribal Chief into something even more dangerous. This was Reigns at his absolute peak, a championship-collecting monster who made beating him feel impossible. When he defeated Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 38 to become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion, holding both top titles simultaneously, he wasn't just a champion anymore, he was the champion. What separated Final Boss Reigns from his earlier Tribal Chief days was the sheer aura of invincibility. His 1,316-day Universal Championship reign became legendary not just for its length, but for how dominant he looked throughout. Every challenger felt like they were climbing Mount Everest. Drew McIntyre, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Logan Paul. It didn't matter who stepped up, Reigns found a way to retain. The Bloodline storyline reached soap opera levels of drama during this period. Sami Zayn's integration into the family created comedy gold while building to genuine emotional investment. The slow-burn tension between the Usos and Solo Sikoa added layers to an already compelling narrative. When Zayn finally turned on the group at Royal Rumble, it felt like a genuine betrayal that had been brewing for months. But perhaps the most impressive aspect was how Reigns made his part-time championship run work. Unlike previous part-time champions who felt disconnected from the product, Reigns' sporadic appearances made him feel even more special. When the Tribal Chief showed up, all eyes were on him. It was important. It was special. It felt like a big deal. And if you don't believe that, the numbers tell the story. Longest Universal Championship reign in history. 5th longest world title reign in WWE history since 1988. And genuinely, some of the best character work of his career. This wasn't just a championship reign, it was a masterclass in how to be wrestling's final boss. When Cody Rhodes finally dethroned him at WrestleMania 40, it felt like slaying a dragon that had terrorized the kingdom for years. After losing his title to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, Roman Reigns disappeared from WWE television for 4 months. When he returned at SummerSlam, Solo Sikoa had taken over the bloodline and declared himself the new Tribal Chief. The OTC, standing for both the original tribal chief and the only tribal chief, represented Reigns returning to reclaim what was rightfully his. This version combined the best elements of his previous iterations: the cool factor of Shield Reigns, the respect earned during his tribal chief run, and a renewed sense of purpose for the big dog. For the first time since 2020, crowds were genuinely happy to see him. What makes this era fascinating is how Reigns has become the face again without sacrificing the character development from his heel run. He's still the head of the table, still demands acknowledgement, but now he's fighting to protect his family legacy rather than abuse it. His alliance with Cody Rhodes and reunion with the Usos feels organic rather than forced booking. The story culminated in his tribal combat victory over Solo Sikoa on Netflix's Raw premiere. Since then, Reigns has been involved in a turbulent situation with Seth Rollins and CM Punk that saw his trusted counsel, Paul Heyman, turn his back on Reigns after 5 years and led to one of the most shocking moments in WrestleMania history. From developmental talent to wrestling's most compelling character, Roman Reigns' journey proves that sometimes the longest path leads to the greatest destination. Each version built upon the last, the silent intensity of Shield days, the misguided heroics of the Big Dog era, the untouchable dominance of the Tribal Chief, and now the earned respect of the OTC. Whether you loved him or hated him along the way, you can't deny that Roman Reigns has become exactly what WWE always hoped he'd be, and that is the head of the table.